Happy Tuesday. Pray all is well. My name is Michael Gibson. I write under the hashtag Biblical Poet. I speak from a faith-based perspective on socially relevant topics. I consider myself a covenant speaker. So if you have any feelings towards the covenant, the words that I speak will resonate with you. And hopefully, even if you don't enjoy God's covenant, you can learn something. So today I just wanted to talk briefly about footprint versus the shoulder. As a father, I really want to leave a legacy for my children, and I really want my children to be well off and do and accomplish more than what I have. And I think if you get this principle, if you really understand it and get it in your spirit, your children will be able to be further along than you are. I think one of the greatest travesties or injustices is when we as parents become selfish and say, I had to earn mine, and so they should earn theirs. I wholeheartedly disagree with that statement. We want our children to have a good work ethic. We want our children to learn and earn some things for themselves. And usually that learning and earning is really about being respectful and learning to just principles in life, but it doesn't have to necessarily be this rigorous thing. So what does the footprint versus the shoulder mean? So as I stated earlier, I believe our children should be an extension of ourselves, and they should go farther than we are. So a concept that I just wanted to roll out there was, you should stand on my shoulders, but not walk in my footprints, or not stand in my footprints. So if you're standing in my footprints, that means you're at the same spot that I'm in. If you're standing on my shoulders, that means that you're able to be at a higher level than I was. If you're standing on my shoulders, that means what you're able to see should be more than I'm able to see because you're higher. And my hope is for my children and for the next generation to be on my shoulders, not in my footprints. And I think it's selfish when you say, hey, be in my footprints. No, learn from my footprints. Learn from the path or the trail that I have blazed and leveraged it. It's like telling somebody to reinvent the wheel. Wheels were first used in bicycles, and now we have wheels on cars because the wheel works. No one takes the wheel and say, now I want a square tire. It wouldn't make sense to say I want a square tire. Just like I don't believe it makes sense to tell our children to start from where we started. It just doesn't make sense to me. Our job is to leave a legacy. So today I just wanted to talk about that. I just wanted to get some scriptures, just to get my thoughts and just get my point of view on the subject matter. So again, my hope is that my kids stand on my shoulders and not in my footprints. I want them to go beyond where I am. I want them to be able to reach higher levels than I reached. And the only way for them to reach higher levels than I am reaching or have reached is for me to pass down information, to give them the tools, to show them how to navigate this world naturally, how to navigate this world spiritually, also how to navigate this world physically. Many times we will say what we have is hereditary when it comes to our health. A lot of what you have isn't hereditary. A lot of what you have is bad dietary practices. So if you pass down those bad dietary practices to your children, then your children will suffer from the same illnesses and ailments that you suffered from. So if you have a proclivity for one disease or another, for one illness or one sickness or other, you want to make sure that you're not eating the food. You're not eating the food that contributes to that type of illness or sickness, however you want to label it. So it's very important for us to pass down the information that we have so that our children can navigate this world naturally, physically, and spiritually. It would be highway robbery for me to not teach my children what I know. Some things they got to learn on for themselves because people just are hard-headed, and sometimes You know, the nature of our children can be that now I want to experience for myself. That's wonderful. But I just want to read some passages and I just want to give some thoughts. Again, I'm not trying to be super deep with this, but I just had some things on my heart that I just wanted to relay out, and hopefully that, you know, someone can understand and someone can relate. So just, I want to give you a first scripture. It's in Hosea 4:6. The scripture is Hosea 4:6, and I'm going to read that out of the King James Version of the Bible. That's the one that I have. That's the one that I like. Hence, that's the one that I read. I know there are electronic Bibles that I can get different translations, but I think this one is self-explanatory and doesn't need another translation. It's pretty straightforward. So Hosea 4:6. Hosea 4:6 says, well, Hosea 4:6 says a lot, but I'm in Amos 4:6. Here we go. Hosea 4:6. I'm going to read this. It says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me. Seeing thou hast forgotten the law of thy God, I will also forget thy children. Now that is a pretty big statement there. I just wanted to read the whole passage. But the point that I wanted to glean from that is that my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And when it says later down in the verse, thou shalt be no priest to me, this verse was to the children of Israel. And the children of Israel, and you had the Levites, and they were the priests for the Israelites. They were the priests to the 12 tribes, and the priest's job was to lead the body of people in tabernacle services and ceremonies and lead their heart back to their God. That was their principal thing, was to guide them spiritually and was to give them direction and give them understanding. And God was telling his people, he was admonishing them, basically saying, you're ignorant, you're willfully ignorant, and you're destroyed for the lack of knowledge. Now, knowledge is just information gathering. You're getting knowledge, you get information, and it's good that our kids have the ability in the Google generation, as I like to call them, Wikipedia generation, to get the knowledge. But it's not just knowledge that our kids need. It's not just knowledge. See, knowledge isn't power. Knowledge is information. Applied knowledge is power. It's very important for us as parents to teach our children the importance of wisdom. Wisdom. You have a lot of people giving information, and information given to an immature person can be deadly. Information given that is partial information could be very dangerous. That's why as parents, that's why as leaders, that's why as mentors, that's why as aunts, uncles, we should feel some type of responsibility to help our youth disseminate the information that they're given. Because you're destroyed for the lack of knowledge, but you also can be destroyed for not knowing how to use the knowledge. Now you may say, Michael, I'm not 100% following you. How can you say that we're destroyed for the lack of knowledge, but we need to know how to apply the knowledge? If I were to give you a loaded handgun right now, if I was to give you a loaded handgun, and you were to take that gun and tell your child, this gun is for self-defense. This gun, this is the knowledge. This gun is to provide you with a means of safety. But if you don't tell your child, never put a loaded gun in their own face, it could be a deadly, fatal outcome. That's why it's very important for us to provide the right type of knowledge. But not only knowledge, we got to tell them how to apply the knowledge. We got to give them the wisdom. So the example I gave is that a gun, yes, it can protect you, but the gun in the hand of a child, if they're holding the gun the wrong way, it will be a deadly outcome. It could be a futile outcome for that child. So it's very important for us to tell our children how to apply the knowledge. So the first passage that I gave was Hosea 4:6. My people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. So it's very important to get knowledge, but it's more important to understand how to apply our knowledge. And if we don't teach our children how to apply the knowledge that we have, they could be starting on our shoulders. So I don't want my kids to start on my footprints. I want my kids to stand on my shoulders. If they're in my footprints, that means that I haven't done my job as a parent. That's just my own personal belief. You can have your own belief, but I honestly, truly believe that it is my job as a leader of my home, as priest of my home. Great God afternoon to you, Apostle Pender. As priest of my home, my job is to not allow my kids to be in my footprints. My job is to tell my kids to get on my shoulder, reach beyond the level that I have achieved, go past what I have. It should be like a baton race. We should be passing the baton to our children. Our children shouldn't start at the same mile marker that we started. It wouldn't make any sense for me to say, I have arrived, I have achieved, I have accumulated wealth, I have all of this stuff, and tell my kids that they have to start at the same level that I started from. That just doesn't make any sense. And the real life world example, just take the royal family. When you look at the royal family, one of the guys, he stepped down from his duties, but truth be told, he's a prince. The royal family doesn't say you have to amass your own wealth. They don't say that. They don't say that you got to live in your own house and get your own stuff. What they say is you're part of the royal family, and because you are a part of this family, this is the amount of wealth, this is the amount of influence that you shall have. This is the privilege of being in this family. I believe that's how we are to treat our children. As part of our royal family, we should see them as royalty. We should see them as a blessing. We should see them as something that we want to pass the baton. So what we amass in information, we should pass it on to our children. We should pass it on to the next generation freely. That's not saying that they don't have to earn certain things, because we want them to have certain lessons. We want them to have an amount of maturity that is needed to survive in this world, but it will be a dereliction of our duty just to say start where we start. That's not how life is supposed to be. So again, our children should stand on our shoulders. They shouldn't be standing in our footprints. If they're standing in your footprints, that means we're starting from square one. And I don't see anybody rolling around on square tires. We don't reinvent the wheel. We leverage the wheel. And we make the wheel accessible to our children and show them the things that we have expanded upon. We show them these are the pitfalls. So we don't have what I call that Hosea 4:6 experience. It says, my people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee, that thou shalt not be priest to me. Our job is to be priest to our homes. Our job is to be the priest to our homes. But God said if we reject the knowledge, he will reject us. He says, forget not the law of God. I will also forget thy children. As I stated earlier, our job is to guide our children naturally, physically, and spiritually. As priest of your home, you should be guarding your children naturally, physically, and spiritually. So again, knowledge is paramount. Knowledge is paramount, but knowledge is not wisdom. We want to make sure that we give our children the wisdom and the tools that is needed for them to be successful. So why am I talking about wisdom? I wanted to point out to you and reiterate to you that knowledge is paramount, because God says we are destroyed for the lack of knowledge, but knowledge is only part A. You need part B, because applied knowledge is power. We have a generation of people that are full of information, but they have no idea how to apply it. They have no idea on where to apply it. Therefore, when you don't know where to apply the knowledge, you don't get maximum results from the information that is gathered. And I think that is the danger that we leave when we leave an inheritance to our children, when we don't actually show them this is what dad went through. And this is why you shouldn't go through the same pitfalls that dad did. Now, someone may say that my child might want to utilize that against me, saying that, well, dad, you did it. And because you did it, I should have the right to do it. What you should do is teach your children wisdom. So I'm going to go through some scriptures about wisdom. So I'm going to go to the book of Proverbs, chapter 4. And once you teach your children the importance of wisdom, I think what they'll do is they'll start to glean and say, Dad, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I don't want to reinvent the wheel, Dad, because I understand the value of wisdom. If we don't teach our children the value of wisdom, they will never want wisdom. They will just want knowledge. But knowledge is only half of it. Wisdom is what we need. It's great for knowledge. I mean, without knowledge, you know, you will be destroyed, because the Bible says that. And if we don't pass the knowledge down, he says that he will forget our children. So as believers, it is our job, it is our duty to pass down the knowledge, because we don't want our children's life to be destroyed. But knowledge is only half of it. So I'm going to take you to this verse, Proverbs chapter 4. Proverbs chapter 4, and I'm going to be reading at the first verse. Hear you children, the instruction of a father, and attend to know understanding. So he's saying in this verse, hear the instruction of who? The father. And attend, that means sit down, pay attention, to know understanding. To know understanding. So what is to know understanding? Because understanding is just getting the knowledge, but to know understanding is another level. For I give you good doctrine, forsake ye not my law. For I was my father's son, tender and only beloved in the sight of my mother. He taught me also and said unto me, let thine heart retain my words, keep my commandments and live. Keep my commandments and live. Get wisdom. Get understanding. Forget it not. Neither decline from the words of my mouth. Forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. Love her, and she shall keep thee. Verse 7. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom. With all thy getting, get understanding. See, Google is not enough. Wikipedia is not enough to secure your child's future. That is not enough. Verse 7 says, wisdom is the principal thing. Wisdom is the proper application for what you know. Therefore, get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. What do you think understanding is? Wisdom. You just can't give knowledge, because knowledge is not enough. In the example I gave you before, you can tell your child the knowledge of having a gun. You can tell your child a gun is to protect and ward off enemies. However, the gun may be there to protect you, but if your child doesn't know not to point the barrel of the gun in their face and they pull the trigger, it is detrimental to their health. It will be a fatal event that will happen. So just having the knowledge is not enough. See, we want to give our children the knowledge of God, but they learn from our example. They learn from what we teach them to apply. The word of God says, listen, I'm going to go back to verse 4. It says, he taught me also and said unto me, let thine heart retain my words, keep my commandments and live. If you want to live, keep my commandments. If you want to live, listen to my words. Listen to my words. Listen. Do you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth? But then it says in verse 5, get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not, neither decline from the words of my mouth. Forsake her not. What are you not forsaking? You are not forsaking the wisdom. And she shall preserve thee. What shall preserve thee? Wisdom. And with all, and she shall keep thee. So it says, verse 6, forsake her not, and she shall preserve thee. What does preserving mean? Preserving is something that keeps something longer than if it didn't have preservative in it. So if you had fruit, like some tomatoes, if you took some tomatoes right now and stuck them on your shelf, they would only have a shelf life for about 5 or 7 days before they start to rotten, because it's not connected to the vine. But if you was to put some preservatives and you crush those tomatoes up, you can have some tomato paste, you can have some tomato puree, you can have some diced tomatoes for a very long time because you put preservatives in it. So when you put a preservative in a thing, it allows that thing to live longer than it would if it didn't have the preservative. So that's why God said, get wisdom, because God is trying to preserve you. God is trying to keep you that you may be able to stand against the wiles, the tricks, the devices of the evil one. So he doesn't just want you to have the knowledge of the Bible. He wants you to have the wisdom of the Bible. And the only way to get the wisdom of the Bible, that means you must learn how to apply the words of the Bible for yourself. So he says that it will preserve you. Love her. It says, love her, and she shall keep you. If you love wisdom, it'll keep you. See, you wonder why you can't be kept. The reason why you can't be kept is because you have all this knowledge, but you don't know how to use the knowledge. You have all this information, but you have zero revelation. Information with zero revelation is basically not having any knowledge at all. It doesn't do you any good because knowledge is not power. Applied knowledge is power. So we have a group of people that have a bunch of knowledge, but they don't know how to apply it. So it's great that you can go on Google and Google something, but that doesn't top the real life experience that your dad has, that your mother has, that your aunts and uncles have. Our children is not to stand in our footprints. They are to stand on our shoulders. If we want them to have a legacy and leave a legacy, we have to begin to tell them things and how to apply the things. Because the word of God says wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom with all thy getting, get understanding. Verse 8, exalt her, and she shall promote thee, and she shall bring thee to honor when thou doest embrace her. When you get wisdom, wisdom will cause you to be promoted. Wisdom will call you to be honored. Wisdom, when you embrace her, she shall give to thine head an ornament of grace and a crown of glory. She shall deliver thee. Wisdom has the ability to save you out of situations. Wisdom has the ability to crown you. See, if you want to be crowned, you want to be a real king, you want to be a real G, get some wisdom. Move past the knowledge. Move past Wikipedia. See, this is the thing. This is the thing. When you have wisdom, not just information, you really know how to cook. So when you're in the kitchen and there's a recipe, and let's say there's a misprint in the recipe, the real recipe only calls for a tablespoon of salt. And somehow this recipe says a cup of salt. Now, anybody that's been in the kitchen know, if you put a cup of salt in anything, it's going to be nasty. You're not going to be able to consume that food. So because you have wisdom, even though you have a recipe, even though someone laid that information out for you, your wisdom kicks in and says, I've been cooking for a while. I ain't never used a cup of salt in anything. Not in like a 2, 3, 4 serving of food. You might say, okay, a tablespoon versus a tablespoon, but you're not putting a cup of salt in any food if you got wisdom. So just because you have knowledge don't mean you know how to apply the knowledge. So you can take a kid that says, I know how to cook, I'm all big and bad, but they ain't never cooked. And they got this recipe. And this recipe is supposed to say just a tablespoon of salt. But it was a misprint and it says a cup of salt. So they use that knowledge and they're ready to present what they got with the knowledge that they have. But what they have is not edible because it's not good, because it's too salty. It's because even though they had the knowledge of the recipe, they didn't have the experience, the life experience to be able to apply common sense that you don't put a cup of salt in anything. That's just for 1 or 2 servings. You don't do that. So that's why we got to apply wisdom. And then verse 10, it says, hear, O my son, and receive my sayings, and the years of thy life shall be many. Verse 11, I have taught thee in the way of wisdom. I taught thee in the way of wisdom. Let me get back to, I taught thee in the way of wisdom, and I have led thee in right paths. When thou goest, thy steps shall not be straitened, and when thou runnest, thou shalt not stumble. See, your kids won't stumble, and their step won't need to be straightened if we teach them in wisdom. If we give them how to apply the information that I'm giving them, their path won't need to be straightened. Their feet won't stumble because they will already know the right way to walk and the right path to take. Verse 13. Take fast hold of instruction. Let her not go. Keep her, for she is thy life. What is thy life? Wisdom is thy life. That is your life. That is your life. Verse number 14. Enter not into the path of the wicked, and go not in the way of evil men. Verse 15. Avoid it. Pass not by it. Turn from it and pass away. See all the things when you really give your children the wisdom. But what happens is sometimes in our life, we don't want to give our children the real wisdom because we don't want them to know that we've stumbled and that we fell. But if you don't tell your kids the truth, if we don't tell this generation the truth, they will be walking in the same places that we walked in. And they will not be going any farther than we have gone because we have been so immature not to give them the wisdom that is needed for them to be safe. Again, I'm just reading you what the word of God said. I'm not adding anything to this word. Just listen to this again. This is Proverbs verse 4. Verse 4, chapter 4, verse 8. Exalt her, and she shall promote thee. She shall bring thee to honor when thou doest embrace her. Verse 9. Listen to this. Listen what wisdom does. She shall give to thine head an ornament of grace. Don't we all need some grace? Haven't we all made a mistake where we said if we could just have a level of grace? Well, wisdom will give you a level of grace that knowledge just doesn't give you, because sometimes you can have the knowledge, but when you don't have all the knowledge, like I said in this recipe, if we were making something, you put a cup of salt and it's only supposed to be a tablespoon of salt, even though the recipe called for a cup of salt, you know in your inner part, in your inner being, because you have been in the kitchen long enough and you have enough experience and enough information has been relayed to you that you would never use a cup of salt. That's what we got to get our kids, so they get it in their inner parts, so they get this word in their heart. Because remember what I said, that we are to guide our children naturally, physically, and spiritually. When we guide them naturally, physically, and spiritually, when they're in the path of the wicked, they won't take it. Because they know on the inside, this is not right. This doesn't smell right. This doesn't feel right. This is uncomfortable. I remember when I was in college, they would say, well, we want to go out on this night. And I would say, I can't go out because it's a school night. And they would say, well, Gibson, your mom ain't here. What, you a mama's boy? And I would say, well, yeah, I am a mama's boy. And I'm my father's son. No, I'm not doing it. I know you want to go out tonight, but I've been raised and I've been taught, and I'm secure in what I know and what I've been taught, because my dad has explained to me the pitfalls of going out on certain nights and not handling my business. Because I was taught what happens to me when I don't handle my business, I decided to handle my business. There's a saying that I always say, you can play now, pay later, or pay now and play later. See, when you explain to your children the cost of playing, when you explain to them and show them what they will have to pay at a later date, they will probably would rather just pay now and have the ability to play later. So when I was in school, I worked very, very, very hard. I was very diligent. I was very persistent on being successful in school. So when I was in school, there was a lot of people that were playing. They were going on spring break. They were doing all of this stuff. They were spending all their money. Every time they got it, whatever they earned for the summer, they spent it. But when I was in school, I'll never forget it. We didn't have a lot of televisions. We didn't have a lot of this material things growing up. We had a lot of love, and I'm happy for my childhood upbringing. But I decided my freshman year that I wanted to have my own home. I wanted a house for myself. And I said, well, since I want a home for myself, every time I make a purchase, I'm making a home purchase. So even though I was in a dormitory, I was buying things for my house. So one of the first purchases I made was I got myself a 25-inch television. And people would say, well, why do you need this big television? At this time, this was the old school televisions where they were, pretty wide. And people would say, well, you don't need that big television, because most people had a 13-inch television. And if they were lucky, they had a 19-inch television. But you will walk in my room, I had this 25-inch television. Not only did I have a 25-inch television, when I got a little bit more money, I got surround sound. And I'll never forget it. The first movie that I watched with my surround sound, I watched Jurassic Park and I watched Braveheart. And I'm telling you, to hear the sound of that movie and that system was amazing. It was awesome. But everyone will come into my room and be like, why do you have all this expensive stuff? And I would tell them, I'm buying a house. And they would look at me like I had 12 heads. You're buying a house? That don't make no sense. You're in college. You're in a one-bedroom dorm that basically you could almost touch both sides of the wall. And I would say, no, I'm buying a house. So I'm buying this television for my house. So my freshman year, I had this 25-inch television. Then I had this stereo system that I bought. And that's what I had earned over winter break and over summer. Then the next year, my wife, her birthday came up, and I bought her a 27-inch television. So it was 2 inches bigger than the TV that I had. I had got a good deal. And people would say, why did you just buy this television? It don't make no sense to be buying some 27-inch television. I would say, well, no, I'm getting a house. And they were like, but you in college. I said, I understand I'm in college, but I see a house in my future. So every purchase that I'm getting, I'm preparing for the house that I'm planning for. So what ended up happening, we began to set aside money. And I say we because my wife and I, we met freshman year of college. So freshman year of college, I told my wife, this is where I want to live. This is the size house that I want. And no, I hadn't seen anybody live in this house, but I saw it on the inside. I saw it in my heart. So I began to research, okay, if I have this type of living room, what size television would I want in here? If I had this type of room, what type of furniture would I want in here? So over the course of the next 4 years, we began to put money away. So people were going away on spring break. And people would take all of their money partying. And I would say, no, I'm saving money for my house. And they would say, Gibson, you crazy. You do realize that you're just a sophomore in college? And I said, yes. But I had this philosophy that my dad had given me. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. So he would say, if you're going to spend your money on something that's going to last. Spend your money on something that's just not at the 5 and below, at the 5 and dime. If you want to invest the money, save up your money and get what you want. Get quality versus over rushing to get the thing. Because he would always say to me, gimme died of their wants. So he said, if you could control your wants, you could really get what you need if you took the time just to save it. So my dad imparted that wisdom. So we didn't have enough, but every time we got something, it lasted because he just wasn't buying junk. Because he could say, I can wait to get what I want versus letting my emotional need override. So what ended up happening, I bought this 25-inch television. I bought this 27-inch television. I bought this stereo. So when I moved into my house, after graduation, my wife and I, we built a house. Guess what I had in my family room? Guess what I had in my bedroom? I had a 27-inch television in my family room. People would come over and say, man, that's a nice television. And I had the stereo popping too. The stereo was popping. And I had a 25-inch television in my bedroom. And people would come over and it was like, wow, you got this TV in your bedroom? You got the stereo in your bedroom? And I was like, yeah, I got that. They said, well, how are you affording all of these things? But what they didn't understand is that I had that television. Yes, I owned that television for years. I had owned it. I bought it outright, but I bought a quality television and I bought the size that I envisioned for my future. So I was willing to pay now and play later. So while everybody was spending their money for things, for spring break, I was spending my money on things for my house. So every purchase that I made that was major, I had my house in mind. So when we got a computer, we bought our computer. Joyce's uncle blessed my wife with some money to be able to get the computer, but we got a high-end computer because we was like, okay, if he's going to bless us with this money, we want this computer to last us because in my house, I see a home office. Because I see a home office, I want to make sure I have a computer equipped at a level that will support a home office. Now, granted, I'm in a one-bedroom college dorm room. But I was thinking, because see, my dad had told me if I'm going to spend my money, make sure the money lasts. So my dad was making sure that I wasn't walking in his footprints. He was making sure that I was standing on his shoulder. He was giving me the information so that in my future, could be greater than him. Like I said, we didn't have a lot of televisions. We didn't have a lot of technology. So what I was doing was basically saying, okay, I'm going to store up this money. I'm going to store up this money and I'm going to buy house purchases. And every time somebody came and said, you're crazy for buying a house purchase, I said, it don't matter. This is the vision that I have for my house. So everything that I purchased was for the house. Everything that I purchased. But let me tell you about wisdom. So my dad would say, son, guess what? If you don't have the money for the thing, it don't matter. Just wait until you get the money. Don't allow people to force you. So you would come into my house. I had this wonderful, we bought a couch for the family room. We got a couch for the family room. But I didn't have money for furniture for the living room. So I went to my mother-in-law and said, hey, would you mind allowing me to have this furniture? Mom, would you allow me to have this furniture? Now, this furniture was the furniture for the cats. So let me tell you, this furniture stank. This furniture had all kind of cat hair. But I understood that I didn't have money for the furniture. But I had the wisdom to put my pride aside, because my dad said, if you don't have the money for it, ask somebody to help you out. And if somebody's willing to give it to you, why spend your money? And I had already spent my money on this furniture for my family room. So I went to my mother-in-law and said, look, I'm looking for some furniture. I know the cats have the furniture. Can I have the furniture? She said, if you're willing to clean it off and get it, you can have the furniture. So guess what I did? I cleaned all the cat hair off, because we all know that cat hair can be removed. We all know that upholstery can be cleaned. We all know that scents, if you let them air out and you have some Febreze and some other stuff, I sat on it, I sprayed it, it stank, sprayed it again, sat it outside, let it air it out. I cleaned it off. So you come into my house, now you see furniture in the family room, you see furniture in the living room. And people will say, wow, your house is furnished. How are you furnishing your house? Because I used the wisdom that my dad gave me when I was a kid and applied it to my life. So let's go now. I'm in this house that I'm in right now. Guess what furniture is sitting in my family room and is sitting in my living room? The same furniture that I had from my first house. I'm talking about this furniture is basically 20 years old. But see, I took the principle that my dad gave me. If you're going to spend your money, make sure you get the good stuff. Don't buy junk. Don't be emotional with your spending. Buy the good stuff. And because I bought quality furniture, and because I took proper care of my furniture, this house that I'm in right now is 12. I'm 12 years into this house, going on my 13th year. And that furniture, you would not be able to tell that furniture came from my first house, because I took care of it. But that's what wisdom is. Because see, people tell you can buy a home, and then the person will say you're proof of this much money. You have the knowledge, and then you have this much money, and then you go spend that much money, then you can barely make your house payments. But because I took the wisdom that my dad gave me, it gave me a level of grace. Gave me a level of grace, so I was allowed to then use my money in other areas that was more important. So I didn't have to worry about buying a television because I was preparing to be in a house. I didn't have to worry about buying a stereo because I was preparing to have a family room. I was preparing to have a television in my bedroom. So guess what? The 13-inch television that my dad had purchased for me when I went to college, it became the television in my spare room. So people will come and say, wow, you got a TV in your family room? You got a TV in your master bedroom? You got a TV in your guest room? And guess what was in my office? My wife's 13-inch television that her mother bought her. See, I wasn't too proud to use stuff that I had, because I had the wisdom to understand that I was building something greater than what was there. We got to let wisdom be the principal thing. Not just knowledge, not just the glitz and glam of everything. We got to allow it to be the principal thing. So let me give you another chapter, another verse on wisdom. Proverbs 8 and 11. Proverbs 8 and 11 says, for wisdom is better than rubies. Rubies. Wow. And all things that may be desired and are not to be compared to it. Look at that. Wisdom. Listen to that. Wisdom. It's powerful, man. It's just so powerful. It's better than rubies. Better than rubies. So not like a ruby, it is better than rubies. So let me read you the verse before. So I'm in Proverbs chapter 8, verse 10. Let me read verse 10. Receive my instruction and not silver. So he's saying take the wisdom, the application of the knowledge more than the money. Because silver was currency back then. So he's saying, don't ask for the money, ask for the wisdom. I think there was a man named Solomon. The guy said, I'll give you anything you want. He didn't ask for the money, he asked for the wisdom. So if you read Proverbs, right, it says chapter 10, verse 8, chapter 8, verse 10, excuse me. Receive my instruction and not silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold. So he's telling him, listen, I'm going to break it down for you. Receive my instruction, my information, and not silver. So that was currency. And knowledge rather than choice gold. So he's saying, don't take the silver. Now gold is more valuable than silver. So he's saying, listen to my instruction. That's going to give you this level of blessing. Take my knowledge. That's going to give you this level of blessing. But learn how to apply the instructions and the knowledge, and it will take you better than rubies, which is another level. Did you hear the steps? Did you see the steps? Did you see the progression? You went from silver to gold to rubies. There was a progression in that thing. There was blessings in that thing. If we want our children, see, if you have the information, they can take all your money, you can build it again. When you have the wisdom, you can reproduce the thing. If you don't have the wisdom, you can't reproduce it all the time. You might get lucky, because even a broke clock is right twice a day. But if you have the knowledge and the wisdom, you can reproduce that thing and get the silver, the gold, and the rubies again. Because that's how valuable wisdom is. It is that valuable. Now I'm going to read, after I read verse 11, I'm going to read verse 12. I, wisdom, dwell with prudence and found out knowledge of witty inventions. Wow. Witty inventions when you got wisdom. You can invent some things with wisdom. You can invent some things with wisdom. Now listen to this. Verse 13. The fear of the Lord is to hate evil, pride and arrogance, and the evil way, and the froward mouth do I hate. Verse number 14. Counsel is mine and sound wisdom. I am understanding. I have strength. The wisdom of God is understanding. The wisdom of God will give you strength. That's what the wisdom does. And see, when we give our children the wisdom, they will not walk just in our footprints. They will stand on our shoulder. They will reach levels that we couldn't reach because we wasn't tall enough. They will be able to see things that we couldn't see because our sight was hindered. They will be able to possess things that we couldn't possess because we give them the wisdom. If you want to give a legacy to this generation, teach them how to apply the knowledge that Google, Wikipedia, and everything else is giving them. When you give them the wisdom, they will be able to understand and discern when the recipe says it calls for a cup of salt, that a cup of salt is not needed. That's how valuable wisdom is. The recipe will taste good. The product will be good because you know how to cook because you've experienced cooking. I hope this is good to you as it is good to me, because it's so important. It's so important to give the wisdom to our children, to give the wisdom, not just the knowledge. Because like I said, if you give a loaded handgun to somebody and point it towards their face, that's futile. That's futile. That could kill them. So just because you got a gun don't mean you know how to use it. Just because you have a gun, how many fatal deaths do we hear about children handling loaded weapons? See, we can't just give our child a loaded weapon. We can't give our kids. See, so what we got is we got all these children with all this knowledge, but they don't know where to aim. They don't know how to shoot. They don't know how to take the safety off. They don't know that there's a barrel in the chamber. They don't know any of that. And they're shooting themselves in the foot because they think they know it all. And we're allowing them to shoot themselves in the foot because we're saying, I shot myself in the foot. When do we do better? The royal family don't make Prince Harry and Prince William start from the bottom. You're in the royal family, so you're blessed with privileges. Membership have its privileges. Being adopted in God's kingdom have its privileges. Like I said, we're supposed to use wisdom to guide our children naturally, physically, and spiritually. It is dereliction of our duty if we don't teach our children and guide them naturally and physically and spiritually in the ways of God. If we want our children to be successful, we must teach them to desire your instruction. You must teach them to desire the wisdom more than the silver and gold. Because if they got wisdom, it's more valuable than rubies. It's more valuable than all of that. But they won't see the value in it if you keep shunning them and you don't want to teach them or they're too young. Well, who's going to teach them? You keep allowing the world to teach them. You keep allowing this music to teach them. You keep allowing movies to teach them. You keep allowing everybody to teach them except you. You're their parent. They're our responsibility. They're nobody else's responsibility. Respect is taught. We teach our children respect. Respect is taught. Trust is earned. Those are two different things. But if we allow the world keeps saying, man, I'm not going to respect them till they respect me. No, that's not how it works. I teach you to be respectful. But over time, I learned to trust you. See, this world will have our kids being unruly because we're saying they got to respect me. Nah, you respect because I teach you to be respectful. You respect your elders because I've taught you to be respectful. You respect the position because I taught you to be respectful. And because you respect the position, usually that person will show respect back to you. And when that person shows respect back to you, you develop a level of trust. Trust is earned, but respect is given because I've taught you. That's the wisdom that we got to give to our children. Stop leading our children down a path of destruction. I'm going to read you another verse. Proverbs is so good. Proverbs is good. I'm going to read you another verse. Chapter 16 in Proverbs. It says, Proverbs chapter 16, verse 16. How much better is it to get wisdom than gold, and to get understanding rather to be chosen than silver? Listen to that. He keeps bringing up a mean of currency. Wisdom, you can create your own currency. I'm going to start at verse 1 in chapter 16. I'm going to just read that. I'm going to read a couple of verses down. The preparations of the heart in men, and the answer of the tongue is from the Lord. All the ways of men are clean in his own eyes, but the Lord weigheth the spirits. Commit thy works unto the Lord, and thy thoughts shall be established. Wow. That was good. Let me read that again. Verse number 2, chapter 16. All the ways of a man are clean in his own eyes. See, when you just balance your thoughts against what you know, you will always be right. You will always be right. But time has a way of allowing you to see things differently. Time has a way of allowing you to see things differently because it's about perspective. See, when you have a different perspective on when you have a different perspective, you will learn to say, don't sit on the edge of my couch. And your kid might say, well, what's wrong with me sitting on the edge of the couch? Because sitting on the edge of the couch will destroy the furniture. Son, I want to pass this furniture down to you. Just like my mother-in-law passed the furniture down to me. And guess what, son? That's a couple $1,000s in your pocket. If you treat this furniture right, this might be the very furniture that you have. Or when I choose to buy more furniture, this could be a gift to you. That's more money in your pocket. See, that's wisdom. Teaching people how to be good stewards of what they have. People, it's not that you don't have enough money. Usually that's not the issue. It's that you're not a good steward with your money. So when people don't teach you how to appropriate your money and allocate your money, how to use your money, where to spend your money, you usually run through money like water. So it's not that you don't have the ability. This might sound wrong, but I'm going to just say it. So there's a group of population of people that people say they're broke folks. These people are broke folk. They don't have no money. Well, if they're broke people, why are there liquor stores in their communities? Why are there nail salons in their communities? Why are there corner stores in their communities? Why are there Chinese stores in their communities? Why is there pawn shops in their community? Why are there payday loans in their communities? Why you have all these things? It's not that they don't have money. They're not good stewards with their money. Because they know that you would spend your money on nails and hair before you would put money in your 401k. They know that you have a paycheck. That's why they have a payday loan center. That's why they have the payday loan center. They know you got it. They know you got the money. They just understand that you have knowledge of money, but you don't have wisdom in money, so you make no investments. They understand that they got to get your money so fast because you'll spend it like a hot potato. They understand that. So it's not that you don't have any money. It's not that you don't have any money. They know that we can put knockoff jerseys on the corner and you'll buy it. Now, you know, if you wash that jersey tomorrow, that number is coming off. You know, if you wash that clothing is off. You know that. You know that. How do you know that? It's because your mama bought that jersey, your daddy bought that jersey, everybody else on the corner has that jersey, and everybody else's jersey has fallen apart. But they know that you can't quench the appetite of your thirst. And they know that you haven't been taught how to use your money. So it's not as if we don't have money. We don't have wisdom with our money. See, if you have wisdom with your money, I know tough times happen. You might need a payday loan if you got laid off from your job or something like that. But on a regular basis, do you really got to have cable television? Do you really need it? You want cable television, but do you need cable television? So when we first bought our home, and I remember times were getting tough, I got rid of Netflix. I actually got rid of the internet and cable. I actually stopped going to Blockbuster. I'm dating myself. I stopped going to Blockbuster. Let me tell you how God is. Now you might say, what does this guy do with God? I stopped going to Blockbuster because my sister said, hey, Michael, you know that the library have free movies. I was like, for real? Library's got free movies? She said, yeah. Library got free movies? Oh, I started going to the library. Guess how much a library card cost me? $0. $0. Guess how long I could keep my library movie? 7 days. Guess how long I could keep the Blockbuster movie? 2 days. And if I brought it back in the morning, they would charge me a late fee. For those that don't know what Blockbuster is, that was the place where you could go rent VHS tapes. That would be like today's Redbox. But because I listened to the instruction of my sister and the wisdom that she had, I was able to save some money from Blockbuster late fees. Even if I'm late today with a movie at the library, it's like 10 cents, bro. Like 10 cents, yeah, for real. Those late fees were almost as much as the movies was at Blockbuster. See the value of not just getting information, but getting the wisdom. Our children are to stand on our shoulders. They are to stand on our shoulders. Stop making them reinvent the wheel. Stop making them reinvent the wheel. We are to be a blueprint to our children. And what our children should be able to do is take the blueprint of our life. That means we need to draw some things out. We need to write some things down so that when our kids get to this stage in life, they're like, this is how I apply this information? Okay. So my kids already have a level of expectation of living in a certain type of house and a certain lifestyle because this is the lifestyle that I have afforded them. So I always tell my daughter, you like going out to eat? You like going on vacation? Then you need to take your education serious. So she's like, I don't like to read. So I tell my kids, well, readers are leaders. Well, daddy has what he has because I read, because I studied. Daddy's not going to be here all the time. So if you want what I got, you gotta do some of the things that I gotta do. Now I don't say I'm not going to leave an inheritance for you, but if you want to keep the inheritance that's potentially there for you, you're going to have some understanding. See, there's a story in Luke about the prodigal son. He took all that he had and he took it. He took all that he had. And after some riotous living and famine hit the land, he realized that what he had was gone. He realized what he had was gone. So he had to go back to his dad. Now imagine if he didn't leave too soon. See, he had knowledge that he had money, but he didn't have wisdom how to keep his money. He had knowledge that he had money, but he didn't have the wisdom to keep his money. Wisdom will allow you to spend less money and go farther in less time. That's the benefit of wisdom. That is the power of wisdom. I want to challenge you to erase the mindset that my children has to start the race where I started. That is an erroneous mindset. Your children should start where you finish. The royal family didn't say, Prince Harry, you got to earn your way to be a prince. No, he's born a prince. So the moment he's born, he's a prince. The moment he's born. The moment your children is born, they are to be royalty to you. They are to be looked at as a blessing from God. And they ought to be looked as an extension of the legacy that we want to leave. So you can't leave a legacy starting from square one every time the next generation happens. Now, in the Bible, a generation was like 40 years. So I'm at a generation. So my father, he went to community college for a couple years. He didn't own his home yet until after, I got out of college. But all of his children went to college. All of us has bachelor's degrees. My sister has a master's degree, but I got a degree in engineering. My brother has a degree in computer information science. My sister has a master's degree. We all went beyond what my father did. I own my house. My sister owned her own. So it's because my dad took the time to say, son, I was drafted in Vietnam. I didn't have a choice in the matter with Vietnam. I wasn't afforded the opportunity to go to a 4-year school because during that time, times were different. But because you live in the generation that you live in now, these are the opportunities that are here for you, son. So please take advantage of them. My dad said to me as a little kid, my dad said, look, if they want to hide a secret from us, they usually hide it in the pages of a book. So son, I want you to read. He said, now, I don't want you just to read. I want you to understand what you're reading. So my dad used to make me write book reports. And I would have to write the book reports to make sure I understood. But my dad made me fall in love with reading. He said, son, if you want to be successful, you got to learn to read information for yourself and don't believe what everyone tells you. You got to learn to take what I'm telling you and what I'm teaching you through my experience and leverage it. So I became a reader and I became a lover of education. So that allowed me to now want to go to school and want to further myself. So my dad didn't say, well, I didn't finish college, so my son shouldn't want to go to college. My dad didn't say I was a military man so that you should want to be in the military. My dad was like, because I'm a military man, I'm telling you, it's not fun to be in a place where people are shooting bullets at you. It's not fun to go through basic training. My dad was like, yeah, people say it's fun, but let me tell you, they wake up, they scream at you, they curse at you, you get dirty. You might want to choose another career path. Now, he said, I will support you if you want to go to the military, and I'm not knocking anybody for their military service. But my dad kept it real. He didn't make it like glamorous. My dad told me when he got out the military and the money they said was due to him and owed to him, he didn't get all the stuff right away. He didn't get that stuff. So what I'm telling you is this. It's important to recognize. It's important to recognize the value of leaving wisdom with your children. It's very important. Because wisdom, as the word of God said, is more valuable than rubies. Knowledge, gold, instruction, silver. So if you want your child to have silver, gold, and rubies in their life, give them instruction, give them the knowledge, teach them how to apply the information. Because knowledge is just information. But power comes when you teach someone how to apply the information that you've given them. My name is Michael Gibson. Again, I write under the moniker Biblical Poet. If this session has blessed you, I ask that you share it out. And I encourage you to teach your children in this generation the wisdom that is needed to be successful. Thank you for your time and have a blessed day.